want to talk about today? This thing. Okay, so what is this thing? Brain. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing an experiment, and the experiment that we're going to do is going to be using your distractions that you came up with, some of them, and we're going to have students drive on a racetrack. Okay? And what the racetrack is going to do is we're going to compare your times driving, then we're going to distract you to see how it changes your time. Okay, so my son, I charged him last night with find a track, and I want you to drive 15 laps on this track and try to see how fast you can go and actually get the same time multiple times. And so we set up a spreadsheet that has a parameters of speed. So your grade is going to be your score, basically on the, not grade, in fact, but your grade on the experiment is going to be your score. If you get within the testing window, you score a 0. If you get outside of the testing window, further out, you lose more points. Again, not for your grade, but just as for keeping track. So if you're going too fast, you lose points. If you're going too slow, you lose points. So the goal is to get a 0. Pay attention. That's what it means. Okay, so let's see. Oh, that's why. Yeah, I'm good. Hi, I'm back. Okay, I'm going to power down my head. Hi, head. Boop-de-doop. Okay, but I'm going to use this brain, because this brain is actually pretty cool. And I'm going to use this brain because this actually is a really nice model of the brain. What's our brain made out of? Not muscle. Yeah, it's mostly fat, actually. Someone calls you a fat head, you go, yes, I'm very well myelinated. Okay, so, my pen, joint. All my whiteboards disappeared on my laptop. They're all on my computer in my office, but none of them are on my laptop anymore. I don't understand Microsoft. Okay. Want that? I hate computers this week. Okay, let's try this again. Not that. Okay. Turn this around and look at it from like that. There we go. Please take a picture of that. Thank you. Wow. Okay. I swear I know what I'm doing. My other classes, it works great. For you guys, nothing works. Your fault. Okay, I feel better now. Okay, I'm going to have to do this the way I did this in my other class. Completely non-science wise. And now my pen's not working! You watched the stream from yesterday, everything worked fine. There's your brain! There you go. Thank you. It's missing some frontal lobe. Sorry, I'll fix that. Evidently, I won't fix that because... There we go. It looks a little angry. Okay. So, I'm going to put this one back up here. Okay? And I can draw on this a little bit. But so this is your brain. I just drew it kind of like this. On the side. Like that. Okay? So if I go to here, draw it on here. So if I draw the brain, it looks like this on the side. This app's working. We're looking at this one from the top. So this is as if the person's looking at it. So it's as if I'm looking at the screen. So this is my, what side? My left side, we call it the hemisphere. Why do we call it the left hemisphere? It's half. It's a half of like a circle. If you notice, there's a slot down the center called the central fissure. Your brain is completely separate, left and right, all the way down to the center. So, and they both work differently. Your left side of your brain and the right side of your brain are different. Now, people ask, are you right or left brain? The answer is, you're both. Because in the center, there's this huge bundle of fibers. It's called the corpus callosum. Billions and billions of fibers that go back and forth. If I talk to one part of one side of my brain, it's automatically talking to the other part. And I'll show you some pictures on this in a little bit, and so you can start to see how it's connected. But I wanted to show you the kind of the basic point. So what's this side then? That's your right hemisphere. You always describe the brain from the person whose brain it is perspective. So if I rotate it around, if I go back to here and rotate it around, now I have to orient myself this way. Oh, okay, there's my right and left. Because this is where the person's nose is. I can't draw on this one. So what's down underneath here? What's this little stick that hangs out the bottom? Spinal cord, brainstem. Brainstem spinal cord goes all the way down the bottom of the brain. So we're looking at what we call the dorsal surface of the brain, right at the top. Okay, dorsal? Like a dolphin has a fin on its back. Well, rats' dorsal surface is toward its back. But humans decided to stand up at some point and look forward, as opposed to looking like this. Anybody ever see lemurs? Someone knows what a ring-tailed lemur looks like. Zaboomafoo? Thank you. I love that your generation knows that. Okay. Who are the Zag brothers? Anyway, the Pratt brothers? Pratt brothers. Okay. So, when I look at this, I want to talk about this in general terms first, then we're going to dig down into the parts. Okay? Your left hemisphere. Your left hemisphere is really crazy. It's details. Your left hemisphere, the entire left side of your brain, worries about the details. What's your right do? Big picture. No, not just visual, but big picture. So my cognitive class right before this one, we're talking about the brain, but we're talking about it completely differently in that class. So the right side, when you look at a picture, like if I put up a picture of, let's go Zaboomafoo. Who knows what I'm talking about? Yay! There's a great picture. Probably going to get some inappropriate website, but that's okay. Okay, so with Zabu here, he was a little puppet thing. Oh no! Oh, careful! Ah! Okay. I'm just going to copy this image and go away from there because you never know what you get with that. Put it back over here, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it won't. It's still stuck in the text box. How do I get it out of the selected to the text box? Maybe just quit. I'm going skiing tomorrow. I don't care. How about that? Oh, now it pastes the brain image. Okay, fine, whatever. So, if I put this picture up, what is the left hemisphere looking at? Okay, well, what about the monkey, though? The right hemisphere says, monkey. What's the left hemisphere saying? The colors. They're seeing, yeah, creepy. Well, the creepy is right hemisphere. If it makes you feel uneasy, that's the right hemisphere going, hey, I don't like the way that thing's looking at me. Those guys look way too friendly. They're selling stuff. But the left hemisphere is identifying the fact that they look similar. They're fraternal twins. Okay? The colors in the background, the colors of their shirt, the way that Zabu's knees are high, that's all left hemisphere. The names of these things, people and things, That's all left hemisphere. The right hemisphere just says, 2 people and a lemur. It scares me. I remember that show brought me joy when I was little. The claymation in that show was very strange. Zabu is not a good storyteller. Okay, oops. Oh, I just closed the live stream. Damn! Okay. It's still running usually. You know, Logan Paul. Okay. All the junk that my son watches. Let's see if it's already going. I'm just going to start drawing and stop playing. Okay. It should be already still live streaming because the software is still running. I don't care. Okay. So, I'm just going to start drawing here and get this over with. So, I'm going to draw my left, right? Yep. Left hemisphere. Just going to talk about the left hemisphere in general first. Okay, and remember, it deals with all of the details. All the details of everything that we talk about, everything that we do in our world, live in the left hemisphere. So someone like myself that has a trouble with computers, B, probably has a type of dyslexia. I process language on both sides of my brain, left and right side. So if I think about language, what is language? So it's a structure of communication, but it's not just communication. What are you doing with language? Interpreting what? So you're taking an idea that you have in your consciousness, and you have to try to communicate that idea to somebody else. So trying to find a concept in here is really tricky. But concepts exist in the right hemisphere. The idea of something. Like, so if I put up, like, I'm wearing my bright colors today. Sorry. Okay. So, I should flex before I do that. No. It wouldn't matter. So, why wear this shirt today? According to most kids, it looks cool. And according to my parents, that's a bad photo, so my beautiful wife. Well, I'm the third child is what I get called a lot around our house because I am really a big kid. Anyway, she goes, that's the most horrible shirt you have. So did I put this on after she left this morning? Yes. I will change it before she gets home this evening. Because I care that she cares. I don't care. Yeah. Okay, anyway. So, but the reason I wear this is because this is a lot of symbolism in this shirt. For a long time, all of our Psych Club t-shirts were black. In fact, this was our original Psych Club t-shirt with just a brain on it that says Cuyamaca College Psychology Club. And on the back it says, nature to be commanded must be obeyed. But all the other shirts that I made were black. I just ordered the orange sweatshirt because I'm very attracted to shiny colors. The 80s were good to me. Okay. So our Psych Club president said, why so much black and dark colors? Why don't we get some bright colors? So I said, challenge accepted. Or as my daughter always says, bet. Okay. And so I made lime green, neon orange, and cheddar. Cheddar. It's somewhere between yellow and orange. It's cheddar. One of my student last semester said, that's cheddar color. Yes it is. So now it's officially a cheddar colored shirt. I will wear that at some point later in the semester. But, so when I think about, if I look at this shirt, what analyzes the colors of it and the font? Left hemisphere. Okay, so when I think about it, this part right here is where you see, called the occipital lobe. In the back, it's called the occipital lobe. Where you see things. Both sides. Both sides. Both sides. And I'm just going to draw one side. What's interesting is that in the occipital lobe, the left side of the world is seen by the right occipital lobe. The right side of the world is seen by the left occipital lobe. There's a reason for this, and we'll get there in a little bit. But your world is backwards compared to the way that you actually are. Why not? Why? We'll explain that in a few minutes. Okay. So now, the side of your brain right by your ears is called the temporal lobes. The temporal lobes is where you hear. But your left and right don't hear sound from left and sound from right. That would make sense. Your left temporal lobe hears all the notes. What does your right temporal lobe hear? The melody. The frequencies are over here. But the melody is over here. So I love jazz. I played jazz saxophone for many years. I was always second tenor. I was never get to be cool first tenor guy. I was always second tenor. One semester at San Diego State, they even made a second tenor for me because the second tenor was better than me, but I've been in the band so long, you can have another second tenor. Yeah! Okay. Minors always come in second. We don't win anything. We just got, hey, I got MVP 2 years in a row coming in second. So, don't knock second place unless it's a two-person race. Then you lost, and then just moving on. No, in track and field, you get points per place. So first place gets the most points, second place less points, third place less points. And it's usually 10, like 8, 5, 3. I came in second and third in 3 events on every track meet, and one occasionally. And so when they added up the total points at the end, they're getting ready to hand it to one of our triple jumpers who was stud, All-American, and they counted up the points and they gave it to Weiner. You're Mr. All-American, I'm going to nationals. You're second place, winning. Okay, so. Okay, so now. We're number 2. We are number 2. So, the temporal lobe pays attention to frequency. The right temporal lobe pays attention to the melody. So when you hear music, what is your whole brain lit up? Let's say you're listening to, like, I was playing Run DMC last class, I think. Was that yesterday or the day before yesterday? That was Monday? You talk too much? Song? No, okay, I was playing one of my classes. Well, when you're listening to to any sort of rap music, what's the right music? What is the right hemisphere hearing? The beats. It's hearing the big picture of the music. Are the words lining up with the beats? Are the rhymes matching? All these things go into the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is analyzing the words. And depending on how you listen to it, depending on which hemisphere you pay attention to, depending what you get out of the music. You follow this? Do some people live more on the left side than the right side? Yes. Which means that they listen to the left side more than the right side. Other people listen to the right side more than the left side. So, now, I have a problem because I attend to both sides. So how can I get distracted by that very quickly? Called attention deficit disorder. Okay, never mind. It's also called, wait for it, I can't see the buttons on this. Why don't they make these for people with fat fingers? Okay. So this part right in the front, right here, the lag time on this is really irritating. This part right in the front is called the prefrontal cortex. This part right in the front is the part where this is where humanness is. How do you know you're human? Well, you don't if you dissociate from yourself. You feel like an imposter in your own skin. Okay, that's because your prefrontal cortex is what allows you to exist in space around you. Your prefrontal cortex is involved with you understanding other humans. When we talk about the mind, a lot of it is your prefrontal cortex. It's the connection of your prefrontal cortex to the rest of your brain that really creates reality. No, it's just dissociated. We'll fix that. Don't worry. Okay. We have to wait a couple weeks in the semester before we can fix that, but we've got to know more stuff first. But the idea of this prefrontal cortex, I'm going to write one key word here that's really important. This is where you plan. Temporal lobe is where you hear things. Prefrontal cortex is where you plan. So far, so good? Overwhelming or easy to understand so far? Okay, so your left prefrontal cortex focuses on all the details of your plan. What does the right prefrontal cortex do? The big idea. I want to be a doctor. Left prefrontal cortex panics. No, it starts itemizing all the classes that you have to take and all the things that you need to know and all the anxiety and depression. That's your left side. Those are the details. The right side is, yeah, that would sound cool. So what's interesting is what happens when you get afraid. What do you think your right side says? Don't! It doesn't care about the details why. It just says, don't. But then you have a bunch of arguments within yourself from this side saying, yes, you should because, or you should because, you should because. I don't want to. You get battles with yourself. If anybody here has ever suffered from depression, it's the inability to control that damn part of your brain. So what do you get overwhelmed with depression? Kenzie? Sorry. You get overwhelmed with details. You can't sort out the details. And as a result, you can't choose a behavior. You can't plan. You, as my wife wonderfully said the other night, I woke up at 2 in the morning and was concerned that we have too many ripe avocados right now. At 2 in the morning, you're really worried about having too many ripe avocados. I hear guacamole. I'm good. Challenge accepted. Too many ripe avocados. But because we're going away this weekend, we bought avocados extra to bring on the trip for avocado snacking, and now they're all ripe right now. What if they go bad during the trip? We can buy more. Having too many avocados is never, ever a problem. I'm willing to take the 300 calories each. Yeah. Okay. So again, your prefrontal cortex, left, right, they fight with each other. Left, right, temporal lobes, they fight with each other. So then there's this other part up here. The rest of the frontal lobe. And this other little section that I left out is called the parietal lobe. Okay, let's make the eye upside down. Maybe like that. I meant to draw the line below it, but it didn't. Okay. It's just an exclamation point in the middle. It makes it more exciting. So, we start getting a little bit more complicated now. And this is the fun thing about studying the brain. As soon as you know a little bit about the brain, you ask a question, you have to learn a lot more about the brain, which makes you ask more questions, which makes you learn a lot more about the brain, which makes you ask more questions. Okay, so the frontal lobe is where moving is. This area in the frontal lobe is called the primary motor cortex, if you care. But this is where you move. So I'm going to put a bunch of dots here. Okay, why are you doing this, Ben? I guess that somebody's battery needs to be replaced. In this part of the brain, each cell represents a muscle fiber. Every single cell represents a muscle fiber. So, if I take an electric fork, and I'll show you this video shortly, and I poke one of those cells with my electric fork, what happens? The muscle twitches. We saw this with the donut on the stick if you watched that video. She found her hand up in the brain, it turned on the electromagnetic pulse stimulator, and it caused her hand to... You ever watched that video? It's pretty neat. Okay, and so if we open up your head for epilepsy research, sometimes my buddy Jake has epilepsy. And it kind of sucks because his dad has cancer, really bad cancer right now. He's my age, and we don't know who's going to take care of him after his dad dies. Because of his epilepsy, he can't really be on his own because he has seizures periodically. And he has about 2 or 3 per week. And it kind of sucks because if his dad's around, he can be taken care of. But if his dad's not around, yeah, okay. So, but what his epilepsy is caused by is that he drowned a bit when he was little. His parents were playing volleyball at South Mission Beach. He was a 2-year-old running around and went to chase something into the water and stopped breathing for a little while. They resuscitated him, no problem, and he was, quote, fine, but ever since that drowning episode, he started having seizures. And as he got older, the seizures got worse. So in 1994, he had surgery. And they opened up his skull, okay, and they cut into a part of his brain that was damaged because of the drowning. And so they took out a chunk of cells. Okay? They scooped out a chunk of cells. Why? Shouldn't we need those? They're damaged, so they weren't working right. Yeah. So what they did is they put him on an electrode cap, just like this one, and watched his brain activity. And I'll show you the video here a little bit, but not of Jake's surgery, but it's the same basic thing. But you can see if you're looking at all the cells being, quote, normal, and then one cell is like, and everything else is just normal, and it's like that one. And it's like, okay. And so, like, it's the Trevor cell of the, sorry, you called it earlier. So, anyway, so, but that one cell is just be like, out of control, so we kind of just like, let's go over here, little cell. And we bring it over, and we give it some medication, and everything's fine. But, or, in this particular case, they actually scoop it out. And if they scoop out the correct cells, all good. But here's the problem. Even though all of our brains are exactly the same this way, what each cell does, so in the motor cortex, it's really easy to understand. Like, you have a huge hand in your motor cortex. You have a huge face in your motor cortex. Why would you have a huge hand and a huge face in your motor cortex? Especially your eyes. What do your eyes have? Tons and tons of muscle fibers. Can you see facial expressions very quickly? Yeah, because your face is a million little muscle fibers, unless you're totally Botoxed up. You're too young for that. Okay, and with all these little muscle fibers in your face, you're constantly controlling them. You have a huge part of your brain. Okay, so your sister is blind. She still makes all the same facial expressions that we do. So Miriam is blind, and I still can't see her name properly. Okay, but when you make her laugh, her whole face smiles. Can she see her face smile in the mirror? Can't see. She's blind. Sucker, gotcha. Okay. But, and then what's really funny is like, so Mary and I were sitting in the office after class, and I made a brain that she could feel. She glued a bunch of, did you help her glue the goop on the brain? No? Okay. So we glued like sand and textured different types of glue on a brain so she could feel it. So if she could feel it, could she visualize what we're talking about? Yes, each lobe we colored a different texture. Okay? So, but I asked her, I'm sitting there in my office, I go, okay, sit at your table where you typically sit in the kitchen. I go, point to where the window is. And right before she points, her eyes look to where the window is. Why do her eyes look to where the window is? Because she's still aware of her world around her. She just perceives it differently. She uses different sensory input. But what's funny is that the motor cortex is still moving her eyes as if and she can see light and dark. So her eyes immediately know where it is. She knows where the refrigerator is because when she has to get up at the table to go to the refrigerator, she knows get up, go this way. So it's really fascinating that the motor cortex, this part of the cells, each cell is a particular muscle fiber, but how does it know where to move or how to move? Well, does seeing improve your movement? If I take, let's see, Carlotta, one of my students, has got macular degeneration. She has glaucoma. So she basically looks through a funnel all the time. So if you want to know what it's like to have glaucoma, what you do is take a toilet paper roll and put it over your eye, and that's all you can see. So why does she walk with a cane? She can't see what's down there unless she's looking down there, and then if she's looking down there, she can't see where she's going. Okay, I had another student who had a guide dog for that reason. And Liz is a great little guide dog because not Liz is the person, the dog's name is Twyla. But Twyla was a great dog because Twyla would tell her whenever there's a curb or something she could trip on. The dog was really good at driving her around. Anyway, so because without the feedback from the occipital lobe, how do you know which muscle to move? How do I move any particular muscle? Get signals, get electrical activity from each cell to activate the muscles. So what we have is this part of your brain right here called the parietal lobe. I'm going to color this in with a slightly different color. This part right here is where you feel. So every cell here has a sensory neuron attached to it. Why would it be located right next to how you move? To coordinate the two, to get feedback. So your movement areas in the frontal lobe coordinate with the sensory areas in the parietal lobe. Okay, this gets a little irritating. The left side of your motor skills and your sensory go to which side of your brain? Right side. The right side go to the left. So how many people in here are left-handed? Raise your hand if you're left-handed. Why aren't very many people left-handed? Where are the details in your brain? On the left side, which controls the right hand. So most people produce language, written language, with the part of the brain that actually speaks the written language. Most people are right-handed. And the sinister people, the people that are left-handed, it's actually interesting, they use more brain in order to write. And have to not deal with their hands smudging everything that they're trying to write with a pen. Okay. So, watching someone use the computer with the left hand is very strange to me. my dad, when he got a computer, the mouse was upside down and on the left side of the computer. Well, he was an IBM. His team built the 8-bit architecture that we all know as PCs now. So his team was involved with like building the 8-bit chip. So he's like a world leader, but before he died, in Fortran. When the year 2000 was coming around, everybody was calling him, even though he had retired, to come help write their software because all the software written in Fortran only had 2-digit dates, not 4-digit dates. The only one that really crashed and burned was Blockbuster. It was a video place you could rent. At the year 2000, not a year born yet, everybody all of a sudden had $2 billion late fines. Because it went from 99 to 00, and it said, it's overdue! Anyway, so, it was pretty funny. So anyway, so why did my dad use the mouse upside down on this side? That's just where they gave it to him when they put his computer. So that's how he assumed it worked, and he learned how to work it that way. Well, it's funny, but if people use Mac, the scrolling, okay, so are you scrolling this way or scrolling this way? The fulcrum. So if you want to scroll down, in a PC, you scroll down, which makes the sheet go down, but on a Mac, you push up to make it scroll down. It's just a change in the fulcrum. Australian scrolling versus regular scrolling. I hate using my wife's computer. It's uses Mac. And I'm also doing constantly on the screen, just making fingerprints on her screen because her Mac doesn't do touchscreen because they don't want their PCs to be touchscreen. But they make the iPad Pro, which is exactly the same as their computer, except a touchscreen. So you have to buy 2 devices. Okay, sorry. So now, they do actually have it figured out quite well. Because I wouldn't be cussing at my wife's computer at this. It would just work. No offense. Okay, Bill Gates is awesome. All hail Bill Gates. Okay, so now, you just tell Macs that they're pretty and they work. Wow, such a shiny, pretty computer. It works. You start bagging on it, getting really deaf. Hey Google, do you know Siri?
I got nothing but respect for Siri. Being an assistant is hard work.
Anyway, so trying to understand how the brain works is actually pretty complicated. And so what we're doing in my cognitive class right now, it's actually really high-level neuroscience stuff. Your consciousness doesn't exist in a single part of the brain. For you to understand what those silver canisters are on the wall, that requires a huge part of brain. I have no idea how to turn those on. What are they? They're lights. And they're lights that light up the stairway so people don't fall on their ass on the 3rd stair. However, I have no idea how to turn them on. If I saw a wiring diagram of this room, could I figure out how to turn those on even though I don't know where the switch is? Yes, because what I can do is I can take my understanding of electronics and apply it to a new situation. Where is that? So if you look at a schematic diagram, look at a schematic diagram. What part of your brain? Don't say back. We know more than that. Occipital lobe. So your occipital lobe is going to see a bunch of lines. Well, giant purple lines, it turns out. And if I see a bunch of purple lines, and then it leads to a switch up here, up in the back of the theater, where am I going to go look for the switch for those lights? Well, before I look at the lines and I see that, I have to activate my parietal lobe. Why do I have to activate my parietal lobe? Where's the back of the theater? How do you know it's over there? Wait, radical change. Is it still in the same place? Is it still in the same place? But I've changed my position in space. So my parietal lobe needs to let me know where I am. Has anybody ever traveled to a new country or something and gotten lost? It's highly entertaining. I was in England. Luckily, they sort of speak English. I rode south as opposed to north on my map. I should have turned right, and I turned left instead and I wrote off my map. This is back before phones and things. So on my bicycle, and I'm riding through these little rights of way, which were built by the Druids like a million years ago, and I'm jamming along, and I'm riding through fields and climbing over fences and just having a great time. And I get to a town, and I look at the town, and the town's name is this, and I'm looking at my map. Not seeing the town on my map. And so I'm kind of looking around. I go into like a little convenience store thing, and I get some meat pie. Meat pie. Okay, pastry with meat in it. Anyway, I'm munching on it. I am completely off my map. So how do you get back to where you know where you are? You ask somebody. Correct. Turns out gypsies don't speak English. Do you know there's actually gypsies? Yeah, they're like Romanian. Is it? Oh, cool. It is, but they actually are the Romanian. They're basically Romanian nomads that pretty much wander around Europe and set up camp, and people treat them like immigrants. Yeah. How would they get their wagon to Europe? Or to England? Anyway, not important. So, but they don't speak English, so they didn't help me at all. So I had to go back and find out where I am. As soon as I found out where I am, can I figure out where I need to go? Yeah, that's your parietal lobe. So we make fun of friends who are dissociating, but when someone dissociates, that's your parietal lobe. Your parietal lobe actually has right here where your self is. If you don't feel like yourself, that's that part of the brain not telling my prefrontal cortex where I am. You're lost. But as soon as you know where you are, what happens? What does the world do once you figure out where you are? You come together. Immediately the world snaps into a grid. And it's like you can, like, if it's really dark and you're trying to find it, I do this all the time. I'll sit on the couch at night working on my online class, and then I turn off my computer and look around. It's pitch dark because the light from the computer has completely bled my eyes out. I don't want to wait for a few minutes. Okay, so how do you find out where to go? Once you identify a particular object, here's the chair, I know where to go. Or we have the router for our solar system is in our living room and has a little tiny green light on it. The solar system outside on the wall by the solar system is the router that connects to the internet so that people can monitor our energy use. Or I could look at my solar panels, which is fun. Anyway, but that little router, that little light, as soon as I see that light, what can I do? I can immediately figure out my location in the room. My parietal lobe sees that information in the occipital lobe and immediately makes a map, and I can go right into our bedroom, no problem, without smashing into anything. If I don't see that light, what do I hit? Pretty much everything in between. But this is really kind of crazy. This one little part of your brain. But this is on the right side of this little part of your brain. It's where that right temporal parietal junction is that they talked about in the video. What is that right temporal parietal junction that they talked about in the video for? Do you remember? Come on. I know, full effort. Morals. Other people's minds. Other people's perspectives. So this left side is yourself. It's grounded. It's real. It's your space is around you. The right side's going, yeah, I get how I am, and I see how other minds are seeing the same situation. Yeah. So everybody asks about sociopaths at this point. It's classic. But that is what they think causes autistic behavior. The lack of the right temporal parietal junction. You just can't see things from other people's perspective. The sociopath can see things from other people's perspective. And they're very good at manipulating people because they can not empathize, but they can see from somebody else's perspective. If you want to be a good predator, you have to know the way that your prey moves. And that's why cats, why do they get distracted by strings? Mouse tails. Their primary prey. You can take any cat and wiggle a string at it, and the cat will go, whoop. They can't not look at it. Because will a cat pounce on a mouse that's not moving? No. Good mice know this. Because as prey, you need to understand the predator. Yeah, so a lot of times the cat will bring a mouse into the house and drop it on the floor. Yeah. And look at you like, look what I got. And the thing will just sit there. And the cat gets bored and walks away. The mouse goes, whew, causing lots of screaming amongst the other people in the house. Okay? And the reason why that works is because if you understand the prey, if the prey understands the predator, there's a balance. Sociopaths are missing something up here. So, inside the brain, we have a couple of parts. I'm going to label this really quickly. It's called the limbic system. Now, the limbic system inside the brain is where your emotions come from. Your memory and your drives. The surface of the brain is where consciousness is. The surface of the brain is where consciousness is. Inside the brain, we're getting to sociopath in a second, are emotions, memories, and drives. What prevents you from doing things that are bad for other people? Your emotions. My son is getting stronger now. It's not as much fun because now when he tries to hurt me, he actually physically can. Like he punched me the other day. It's like wham, ow. Okay, and then so we were lighting a fire in the fireplace last night because it was getting cold and our heater's not working right. So I'm too cheap to get it fixed. So I'm getting a fire in the fireplace. Anyway, I don't want to use one of them plastic log starter things because that's no fun. So I'm wadding up cardboard and some other paper bags and trying to light a fire Boy Scout style in a fireplace. And I'm failing miserably. Because I wasn't a good Boy Scout. And he goes, let me do it. I'm like, no. So I push him back. He grabs my arm and starts pulling it back this way. Normally, I'm strong enough to just go boom and just flood him down. But now he's getting bigger and stronger. He pulls it back and it goes crack. I'm like, ow. He immediately goes, sorry, because he felt it. Like this shoulder makes a lot of noise. Be an athlete when you're a kid. Okay, you'll be fine. But this one doesn't make a lot of noise. It does now. Please. Anyway, so, but what's the funny part is that as soon as he realized he actually, if he punches me and I go, ow, he just keeps punching me. But as soon as he did something that actually caused me pain, ow, he goes, oh, I'm sorry. How did he know? Well, he felt it. But, because the way that I reacted, he cares if he actually truly hurts me or not. And I care if I truly hurt him or not. he was stepping on my heels every time we take a step, flat tiring each other. My favorite is kicking the bottom of their foot when they're stepping, so their foot goes flying up in the air. And so he got both of my shoes. We were in and out. And he got both shoes. I was wearing like lace-up Vans, so I couldn't like jam them back in. And he's like, yes! And I'm standing there with both my heels and my shoes out. And then we got up to the front of the line, and I go, "You want two teenagers?" And the guy's laughing, and my son's like, anyway. But I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, but if he feels guilty, okay? Oh, that's right. He flat tired me, or was trying to, so I just went like this behind myself. Got him right in the nuts. That's funny now, but I felt so bad. Did I mean to kick him in the beans? No, I was just like, stay away, don't kick my feet, and boom, ooh. He's like, oh. I felt really bad. I did not mean to tag him like that. Okay, and again, that's what's happening is your emotions come from this structure of the brain in the side, and what do they tell your prefrontal cortex? What do they tell this part of your brain? What do these emotions tell you? Well, should you do things that are going to cause other people pain? No, and you have to warrant what is good pain versus what is bad pain. And you have to that's a really complicated thing. So then we get to the sociopath. Sorry to point at you as a sociopath. Okay? But what a sociopath does is a sociopath looks at their needs and drives, but can't or doesn't care about other people's needs and drives. There's a disconnect between their emotions and their prefrontal cortex. There's a disconnect between those emotions. If anybody watches Natural Born Killers, Woody Harrelson and I forget the other people, Rodney Dangerfield's in it, that creepy guy. But basically, they're dancing at a restaurant. This guy says, "Turn that crap off," shoots him in the face, blood all over them, and they go back to dancing again, as if that person's annoying. But at the end, they're sitting at the park with their family having a wonderful day out at the picnic. Sorry if I ruined that for you. Okay? And there's a scene in there where Morton Downey Jr. he's the reporter that's following the serial killers. And he's helping them escape from jail. I'm sorry if you've never seen it, but watch it anyway. And the Morton Downey Jr. shoots the guy in the face with a shotgun and blows him up and he's blood all over him. Morton Downey Jr. is like, "That was awesome! I love this!" And Woody Harrelson looks at him and goes, "You're an idiot." Shoots him. Because, is he killing people because it's fun, Woody Harrelson? He just doesn't care. It's not that he gets a rush out of it. It's just that person's in his way. That's a sociopath. Because they don't care, and they're very good at manipulating other people, but if they just don't care. And can you create sociopathy? Yeah, by treating someone when they're young as if they don't matter, they learn not to care. And we actually have a disorder of sociopathy called antisocial personality disorder. What it means is they learn not to care or respect other people. And the way you create one is by not caring and respecting them as a person. See how that kind of works? And that's why people say, "Oh, these narco gangs are going to ruin the world." Well, what caused the narco gangs to form? Do you think that our current government's policies against refugees is causing more problems in places? Yeah, because if no one seems to care whether these people get help or not, the gang cares. But they put conditions upon the caring. It's the same thing as pretty much every conflict. You develop this kind of thing. So, I'm going to break down the emotions into a couple parts for you. But first of all, what are emotions? I can easily draw some. How come I can easily draw emotion? everybody has the same basic emotions. Every human has the same basic emotions. And in fact, dogs have been evolved with humans for so long. Do they recognize your emotions? Yes, if you're afraid, the dog looks at you, oh, that person's afraid. Does a wolf look at you and know how you feel? No. Yeah, they usually just try to ignore you. Wolves don't trust humans. Do coyotes care about us? Unless you feed them. Please don't feed coyotes. Because what happens when you feed coyotes? They keep coming back because they learn very quickly. They're very smart animals. I always mountain bike. Most of the time I mountain bike by myself, like early in the morning. And every so often I've been surrounded by coyotes. Not that I can see, because that would be better. Just literally in the hills around you. You feel very prey-like. I'm going to ride home now and sit in my car and shiver. Anyway, my big fear is like crashing and breaking my leg and having the coyote story come in. That's what I think about. Keeps me motivated. Okay. That part of your brain that thinks about that, by the way, is that right or left side? That's the right side. Right side going, you're going to crash and break your leg. And then the left side fills in all the gory details. Just the general panic, that's your right side. That's the part of your brain called the amygdala. Called the amygdala. When I first took the psych course, I called it the amygdala. Amy's a fraidy cat, so I remember it. Okay, amygdala produces fear and anger. What's the first emotion that a baby produces? Fear. Why does a baby produce fear? That's too cognitive. Is fear necessary for life? Yes. The reason why the baby produces fear first is so it can breathe. The number one thing the amygdala pays attention to is your air. Because that's the most important thing for us right now. Yeah. Sort of. Habit creation is part of it called there's a part called the nucleus accumbens, the ventral tegmental area. Anyway, but that area is, that nucleus accumbens we'll talk about later, is under drives. The nucleus accumbens is where your drives are. Okay? So your drives are motivation. I'm going to write, do it. So when you have this part of your brain called the nucleus accumbens releases a neurotransmitter, the neurotransmitter is called dopamine. When it releases this chemical dopamine, your brain says, do it again. When your amygdala produces fear, what does it tell you? Don't. So these two are the parts of the brain that really do drive motivation. If someone suffers from too much anxiety, what part of the brain is overactive? Their amygdala. And if on the left side of your amygdala, it focuses on all the things that you've ever been afraid of in your entire life. The right side, just panic. We don't care about details. We're just going to panic. What does it feel like to have a panic attack? You're literally not able to breathe. You're dying. That's your amygdala telling you that's the most primal fear. And if anybody suffers from post-traumatic stress, the problem is the amygdala becomes conditioned. Because what do you think's in between the amygdala and the nucleus accumbens? Your memory. Your hippocampus. Your hippocampus is a very nice little part of your brain. It's kind of shaped like this. Okay? Sure. Actually, I have a banana in my lunch today. I'm very excited about that. They're very high in sugar. I don't normally eat them, and I got one today. Yay. Okay. So, with almond butter. very sticky. Okay. And the almond butter oil has leaked all over my hard-boiled eggs, so I have slightly hard, almondy, oily, hard-boiled eggs. I can't wait. Okay. I will spare you eating the hard-boiled eggs in class because one of my students peeled hard-boiled eggs during class once. What are you doing? I need food. Like, go outside. Ugh. Okay. I love eggs, but still. Okay. So the hippocampus has areas that automatically remember who, where, when, and what in parentheses. So what the way the hippocampus works is it has grids. Sensory information goes in one side, sensory information goes the other side. Wherever those two bits of information cross, it forms a node. If I want to remember something, like try to remember your name, what do I have to do? I have to rebuild that association. It's like the connectome. I have to find that connection in the hippocampus. So what's interesting is that whenever something is really good, what does your hippocampus do? Well, whenever the nucleus accumbens releases the neurotransmitter dopamine, you immediately remember who, where, and when, right then. That was good. I'm remembering that. Sadly, whenever something really dangerous happens, your hippocampus goes, I'm remembering that. You're like, no, I don't want to remember this. Oh yeah, you're going to remember it. And what's crazy about this is that your amygdala and nucleus accumbens are constantly what we call priming. They're priming your hippocampus to remember things. How come it's hard to remember things on purpose? But why can't we just prime everything? Listen. It's not that we have to be stimulated, but in order for a memory to work, it has to be stimulated enough so that the next time you think about it, temporal lobe, you can recall that bit of information. So every time, like if I try to go through your names now, probably 6 of you. Okay, where's the other Jackson? Okay, but see, I don't know what Jackson this is now. Default T-Mobile. Okay, now, so but how do I recognize what that sound is? That auditory sound automatically goes and triggers the hippocampus as a recognizable sound. Has anybody ever heard a sound in their house but they can't figure out where it's coming from? Just real quick. The other morning when I got to the gym, I told you the story. I heard a clack, 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 clack. What the heck is that? And as soon as I saw the rat half in the trap, did I know exactly what it was? If I hear that sound again, do I still get haunted? Yes. Okay. I have no idea if that live stream worked now. It did not. Oh, it is live now. All right then. How do I shut it off? Oh well. I'm just going to shut down. That'll work. Okay.
Is your post test still on the 19th?
Possibly going to move back a day because we didn't finish covering the day today. So can you remind me and send an email?
Got it.
Because then I'll remember to tell everybody.
Write that down right now. So
Yeah, thank you. My attention